Families can be driven apart for all manner of reasons.
I had no information at all about where my mum went.
And when you do lose touch with your loved ones,
you don't know who you are, where have you come from.
Finding them can take a lifetime.
I might have a brother that's still living here.
Especially when they could be anywhere, at home or abroad. And that's where the family finders come in. From international organisations...
Hi, it's the Salvation Army Family Tracing Service.
...to genealogy detective agencies.
For someone to say that it's changed their life, it makes coming to work, you know, really, really special.
And dedicated one-man bands.
It's a matter of how much effort you really want to put into it, how badly you want to solve the problem.
They hunt through history to bring families back together again.
Finding new family is wonderful.
In this series, we follow the work of the family finders.
Suddenly you get one spark of breakthrough and there they are.
Learning the tricks they use to track missing relatives through time.
I didn't think I'd ever find sisters, but I have.
And meeting the people whose lives they change along the way.
I've been waiting to meet John my whole life.
Since we've met, I feel part of a family again.
You just completed my life for me.
In the United Kingdom, there are hundreds of organisations that specialise in reuniting long-lost families. But many people decide to turn family finder themselves. Today, we follow the story of one woman's search that turns up not one, but two surprising results.
Do I want to really open this Pandora's box, really?
And in Weston-super-Mare, car enthusiast Nick Morgan is on a mission to uncover the truth about his birth family.
And 5 minutes later, she rang me back and said, I think you may have a sister.
Lovely to meet you.
Jean Heathcote lives in Burton-on-Trent in Staffordshire. She was born in 1949 and enjoyed a happy childhood, raised by a loving family.
I was very, very lucky. I was spoilt rotten. I had fantastic parents and they couldn't do enough for me.
But certain characteristics seemed at odds with the rest of the family.
I did look very different to my family and I had a very different nature to my family as well. I was much more outgoing and noisy.
It wasn't until much later that Jean realised there was more to these differences than she'd originally thought.
When I was 36, I had to apply for a new passport and it all came through attached together with my adopted birth certificate on there. Much to my surprise. So I started to do a bit of investigation and I asked my sister that I grew up with and she told me that she knew that I was adopted, but it would never come out in the family. I realised I had no blood relatives then. I had only my children who were my blood relatives. And started to research everything that I could about the family.
From her birth certificate returned alongside her passport, Jean found the name of her biological mother, Sheila Mary Kelly.
We went to Somerset House, my husband and I, to try and trace back, because I had Sheila's birth date on there, so I could kind of trace that back a little bit. But then it was a bit of a full stop then, really, because I couldn't find any more. So we had to find another route to find out more information. I used to do a thing on teletext television, searching for lost loved ones, finding lost loved ones. And my husband actually was the one who said, look, let's just do this, see what comes of it, you never know. So I put a thing on saying that I was searching, and if anybody out there had any more information, could they get in touch with us?
Jean waited for a response for her appeal to find her natural mother.
I was going through and I found someone who was looking for the same person that I was.
The message contained too many correct facts to be a coincidence. Someone else was also searching for Jean's mum, Sheila.
I'm thinking, well, it's got to be the same person. It has to be. It's the same, her same birth date, but also my name and date of birth on there. It's got to be us. Now, what do I do? Do I want to really open this Pandora's box, really? I decided that I wanted to open the box and see what happened. Subsequently, I had a phone call from her And she said, I've been looking for you for 25 years.
The two women shared a mother, Sheila Mary Kelly, making them half-sisters. Unbeknownst to Jean, Marie Simmons had spent over a decade making inquiries of her own about Sheila.
It was amazing. It really was. I thought, at last, I've actually managed to find her.
Marie was born a year before Jean.
I was born in Liverpool in 1948.
But her mother had her adopted, and she went to live with a family in Red Hill, Surrey.
My earliest memory is of a baby in a pram and me having some mice, and I don't know where these mice came from, but I had the mouse and I put it on the baby's face, and I remember being told off for doing so.
Marie's adoptive family were always open about her parentage.
I always knew that I'd been adopted because I was told at a very early age, which I had no problem with at all, because when you're young, you don't really understand these things. And as long as you're in a reasonably happy family environment, you don't care, do you? I wanted to find my birth mother, but I was led to believe by my adopted family that she died. And it was only when I was in my mid-20s that I found out that she hadn't died. It didn't matter to me what she was like. I just wanted to know her and know about her. And I think people who are adopted need to know. I must have been around about 25, 26 when I applied for my birth certificate. And when it came, I saw what her full name was, Sheila Mary Kelly.
While her adopted mother was still alive, Marie felt unable to search for more information about her biological mother.
When my adopted mother died, I felt that the time was right for me to start looking, and I just got up one morning and said, I'm going to go and look for my birth mother. I wrote to dozens and dozens of children's societies to find out whether any of them had any records of a Sheila Mary Kelly, but with no success at all. It was almost as if she'd disappeared off the face of the earth.
Her search stopped there until years later, Marie discovered the date her mum was born. She included it in the many messages, postings and adverts she put out. It was to one of these that someone replied.
I had a phone call from a lady saying that she was her sister.
It was her mother's sister who had spotted the posting and responded.
Which was, oh, well, unbelievable. I couldn't believe that somebody had actually replied to me. It was marvellous. Anyway, she chatted and told me my mother was alive, but she was living in America. It was such a shock. After all that time, I mean, by then I was in my 40s or so, and I thought, well, does she want to know me? And that was all I kept thinking, does she want to know me?
It had taken her 15 years to track down her mother, Sheila.
Well, my aunt and uncle and myself, we did go to the States and got to the house, and my birth mother was standing at the door waiting. And we said hello. It wasn't what I was expecting. She was quite withdrawn. And it wasn't a particularly successful meeting at all. In fact, it was quite sad.
But not long after she got back from America, Marie received another message from someone who had seen one of her appeals for information. It was her sister, Jean.
We had a long chat on the phone, decided to meet up.
It was lovely. It was really lovely to get that first touch with somebody who actually was related to you.
That was it. It was marvellous. We'd got each other.
It was just, it didn't seem real at the time, you know, but I could still picture her running down the path towards me, you know. She was so excited. And she had all the paperwork that she'd found all laid out, ready to show me all the pictures and just everything. It was lovely.
Marie then put Jean in touch with their mother.
I spoke to her once, but, you know, I think she was probably not very well at the time, and I think she, you know, she just didn't want really anything to do with any of her past, really, sadly.
Jean still had lots of questions about her early life, so turned to the wealth of genealogical resources now available on the internet. It wasn't long before she got a response.
I had a message from a lady called Diana Kelly who said, hello, I'd like to ask you a few questions because I think I could be related to you.
Jean had discovered one new sister Marie. But could there be more relatives out there?
Hello! How are you?
Motor enthusiast Nick Morgan lives in Weston-super-Mare.
I was adopted when I was 3 months old. I grew up in a very loving household, only child, so it was caring, and yeah, I did all the things a little boy should do, I suppose. I always knew that I was adopted, right from the very start. I mean, my parents did a great job with that. They told me, ever since I can remember, that I was adopted, that I was chosen, that I was special, that they'd gone in and there were other babies that they could have picked, but they picked me. I never thought of my birth mother or birth father at that stage. It felt ungrateful, maybe, to be thinking about anything else. These are my parents, so I had no need to find any other parents.
Nick left home, met and married his wife Jan, and in 1997 had a son.
The day David was born, he popped out at 8 pounds 12 ounces, and he lay on my lap and looked at me for 2 hours. We just looked at each other. Just awesome. Really, really mind-blowingly special. I know people say, you have children, it's very different, but yeah, my first and only true full-blood relative. So yeah, very, very special.
It was the birth of his son that inspired Nick to trace his family lineage.
I was concerned that maybe there was something hereditary in the family, and a little boy growing up, you start to think, well, I hope there's nothing there. So maybe I should look at this, and maybe I should think about tracing my family.
A conversation with a friend added fuel to the fire.
I became inspired by someone that I met through work who'd actually decided that he wanted to find his birth mother. And I went, OK, that's interesting. How do you do that? And he said, well, first of all, you need to get your birth certificate. And I said, well, I've got a birth certificate. He said, no, you need to get your original birth certificate. I said, OK, yeah, fine. And he said, that will give you then the details of your birth parents, and then you need to contact social services once you've got that certificate, and they will help you then to track that person down. That was when I found out that I was John Francis Lowe, having been Nicholas John Morgan for 40-odd years. And then social services stepped in and gave me the red file that had all the details in about my birth and where I'd been, etc.
He had a name for his birth mother, Nora Lowe.
Once I got the file from social services, it then became apparent that my mother was born in Ireland. And so from having been English for 44 years, all of a sudden I had some Irish blood in me. And so at that point then we decided to start to explore the possibilities of finding my mother and finding my roots. One of the things that I used to say to people was that it'd be really nice to have a photo of my mum, but I never thought that was going to be possible.
Nick was able to get his biological mother's birth certificate from the record offices in Ireland.
So we actually then found that my birth mother had lived in Coventry, got married to a guy in Coventry in 1968 and became balding, and then he'd passed away in 69. But after that, we could find no record.
Nick's search ground to a halt until a chance encounter at a business networking event changed his life forever.
I sat down next to this lady I'd never met before, so asked the question, what's your name, where do you come from, what do you do? And she said, my name's Kirsty Gray. I find people for various reasons, whether people are looking for inheritances or whether they're trying to trace their family, and I've got a 100% success rate in finding people. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to spoil your record.
Nick had been searching for well over 15 years, trying to find out more about his birth mother. So I think he thought that because he'd failed, there was no information out there. I, first of all, had a look to see if I could find a death for his mother in her married name, and I couldn't. So I then looked to see if potentially she'd married again, and she did. So I then had a new married name to look at, and then managed to locate a death record. She died in 1992, and it links with her date and place of birth, which we knew from the birth certificate that Nick had, was the 28th of October 1919 in Ireland. I emailed Nick to say, when you have a quiet 5 minutes, you might want to ring me.
So I rang her up and she said, found your mum. I went, whoa, and she went, hang on, she has died. Okay, not unexpected, and she died in the same week of the same month of the same year as my adopted dad, in November 1992.
But the story didn't end there. Knowing Nick was desperate to see that elusive photograph of his mum, Kirsty had another lead on Nora's life.
The second married name of Nora, Nick's mum, was actually quite unusual. So once we'd found out her husband's name, we actually had found that he was still living and we had an address for him.
I was very shocked to find out that he was alive and was still living at the same address that they'd been living at before. So maybe there was some more information to be gleaned. So then I was excited.
Kirsty drafted a contact letter to Nora's widower.
Basically, the letter is just explaining a little bit about who we are, but asking him to contact us.
Kirsty sent off the letter and we had no response for over a week. And I don't do waiting very well.
When starting a search for a long-lost family member, it's impossible to predict just how long it will take or even if it will be successful. And if you reach a dead end, it may need something extra to get the search back on the road.
Whenever you hit a brick wall in your search, it's important that you think outside the normal research box. Think about extended family. Put together a proper family tree for that person. If you can't find the person you're looking for, look for brothers, look for sisters, look for cousins, aunts, uncles. If you can find somebody in the family who knows where that person is, then that's going to solve your mystery for you.
Nick was determined not to give up his search for his long-lost relatives and decided to take matters into his own hands.
Having not received a reply to the letter that we'd sent, I had a Friday afternoon call from Nick to say that he was actually travelling to Coventry the following day. And he said he was just going to pop by and see if he might be able to meet the gentleman we'd written a letter to.
Kirsty had said it's not normal to go and do these things, but if we're not getting any joy, then I guess we don't probably have a lot of choice. So see how you get on. So I built up my courage, rang the doorbell. Gentleman came to the doorbell and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, my name's Nick Morgan. You may have had a letter from Kirsty Gray," and he said, yes, and he invited me in. And then we chatted for an hour about Nora, or Noreen, as she'd then become. Having had the conversation, I said, "I don't suppose that you've got a photo of Noreen?" And he said, "Yes, there's a photo behind you." So I said, "Oh, that's fantastic." It's just that moment of going, I've finally achieved that goal, that when I thought that the doors were closed, the wall was built, I was never going to see it, and there it was in front of me. So it was, it was just getting to that point and going, yeah, it finally got there.
And Noreen's widower had more news about his mother. Could Nick's search for his family be about to reveal more than just a photo?
He thought Noreen had had another child. So when I came out, I rang Kirsty and said, he said that there's another child, but I don't think there's anything in it. And she said, "OK, well, I'll just check it out." And 5 minutes later, she rang me back and said, "I think you may have a sister."
Jean Heathcote's search for her birth mother had also revealed an unexpected discovery, a half-sister, Marie. But when both sisters had made contact with their mother, their advances had been rejected. So Jean's quest for details about her early life continued.
I had a message from a lady called Diana Kelly, who said, "Hello, I'd like to ask you a few questions because I think I could be related to you."
Diana Kelly from Bristol had been browsing a family-finding website in the hope of finding out about her birth mother.
I was just going through this site and suddenly up came my mum's name, Sheila Mary Kelly. And on top of the name was Jean Heathcote, with all my mum's details. She was doing a search as well.
It turned out that Jean and Marie had yet another half-sister.
Well, I was born here in 1951 in St Mary's in Paddington, London. Within 6 weeks, I was handed over to a foster family.
As she grew older, Diana began to guess that her foster parents weren't her parents by birth.
Well, it wasn't until I was about 8 or 9 that suddenly thought about it. I questioned why my name was different. And my foster dad said to me, you know, you don't want to know your mum, she's not a nice lady. Always remember those words.
As one of the many foster children in the 1960s and early 70s, Diana was affected by a change in the way the state approached placing children in care. Local authorities began to favour putting children in foster homes rather than with adoptive parents. Fostering is viewed as a temporary measure, with the hope that the child will be placed back in their birth parents' care should circumstances change.
And they all lived together happily ever after.
This shift was coupled with a general decline in the numbers of children of unwed mothers being placed in care.
So since the late 1960s, there's been a huge decline in the number of babies adopted in the UK. There are various factors for this, one being increased knowledge of contraception, another the Abortion Act that was brought in, which meant that women had a viable alternative to ending a pregnancy, and also really the fact that they could bring the child up themselves because there was less of a social stigma by that period.
But fostering didn't always work, as in Diana's case. As she grew older, she repeatedly ran away from her foster family.
In the end, they put me into a home. It was all right, I ran away from there.
Diana stayed in care until she was old enough to rent a flat of her own. Now she felt independent enough to begin to trace her family.
I think I just started my search when I was about 20, 21. You know, I wanted to know who I belonged to. Yeah. I think you want a sense of belonging, really.
Diana applied to the General Register Office to find out more information about her mother.
The only information I actually had on my mother was her birth certificate. I knew her name was Sheila Mary Kelly, where she was living while she was expecting me, her date of birth, and that was it.
Hampered by a lack of information and self-doubt, Diana went through years of unsuccessful searching. In 2009 came a glimmer of hope when she was browsing a family-finding website.
My first breakthrough really was, I think it was called Missing You. And I was just sat there one day, going through it, and my mum's name popped up on there. So I kept reading it, and I'm thinking, oh well, as you do, Diana, you know what you're like. Got her head, picked up the phone, didn't I? I rang her.
Diana had come across one of the adverts posted by Jean, and it seemed they shared a mother who would make them half-sisters.
It took me a while to actually realise that she was related to us and to actually, in some ways, come to terms with that.
Jean told Diana that she'd already found their other half-sister, so Diana looked her up too.
Sat in the kitchen and up came Marie.
I was on Facebook and a message came up asking me if my mother was called Sheila Mary Kelly. And I thought, well, yes, so I replied yes. And up popped an answer saying, well, I think that I could be your sister. I thought, oh no, not another one.
We chatted for ages. Yeah. And the next day, and the next day. I feel like I've known them all my life.
We did meet quite quickly after we spoke on the phone, and it was wonderful to see her. And it would be wonderful to see her again.
Well, Marie and Jean have met each other. I've only met Marie, so...
Jean and Diana are meeting for the very first time, and I know, having spoken to both of them, that they are both absolutely terrified of what's going to happen. I said, look, I'll bring a big box of tissues, you'll be fine.
Today, the three sisters, Jean, Marie and Diana, are getting together for the first time. For decades, they all had been searching for their shared mother, unaware of each other's existence. The sisters are hoping this meeting will cement a stronger bond for the future.
Sisterhood is what I aim to get from today. I think it will be nice to have that closeness.
I'm determined now because I really do need to have contact with my sisters.
I'm nervous and excited.
Hello.
Hello, you.
Hello,
You're
darling.
It's wonderful.
Have a seat, darling.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
You look good.
Do I? Yeah,
You've got different colour hair.
Yeah, yeah. You look great.
Yes.
Oh, bless. Don't cry. Don't cry, sweetheart. How long is it since we've seen each other?
Way overdue. Way overdue for both of us. But I think it would be nice to actually be able to include Diana as well now. It'd just be more like a sisterhood.
Yes.
Getting together.
Yes, yeah.
It's a good thing. I mean, but I was trying to work out where she fell in the...
Right. Me first.
And then me.
Then you.
Yeah.
Then her.
Right. So, I mean, I still want to know who my dad is. Do we know?
No.
No. I guess we've got the same father.
I don't think so.
You could always hope.
Well, we could, couldn't we? Yes. yeah.
Finally, the sister who was most recently found, Diana.
She'll be here in a minute. Oh my goodness me! Hello! Hello! Oh, wonderful to see you. And this is your sister. I know. Oh, bless.
You're right.
Oh, don't cry, darling. Oh. Oh, bless. Oh, this is fabulous. Come on, darling. Come and sit down. Oh, girls together.
Nice to see you.
And you
at last.
too, at last, I know.
Yeah. You're all right.
Oh, yeah.
I see the family similarity between
you can.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
I can see there's a similarity between us as well.
Yeah.
I've got so much stuff here to show you.
Fantastic.
You won't believe.
Because I don't have anything.
She's got nothing at all.
Anything at all. All I got is one photograph of...
Yeah. Are you ready for this, girls?
Go on then.
Our whole life is in a box. Right, this is Mother.
She was quite attractive, wasn't she?
She's quite a glamorous lady, wasn't she? And here she is with a baby. Now, it's a baby girl. Now, who it is, I haven't got a clue. Yeah, she was. I know, she had fantastic hair.
Amazing. Amazing hair.
That's 1947, that one, we think.
Got to be your father.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, OK. Well, I think he's a very handsome man, actually.
I think I'm quite happy with that.
Got nice eyes. This is her and her wedding day.
Which one?
No, she's only had one.
Oh, right.
Well, how do you feel about seeing these photographs of your mum, girls?
Oh,
well,
such a dainty
she was a stunner, to be fair.
Absolute stunner, yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it?
These three sisters may never know much about their mother and the truth behind their adoptions, but it seems their relationship is reward enough for having found each other.
Well, girls, together after all this time.
Well, it's about time, I think.
I know, but amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
I don't think, as you said earlier, I don't think without the internet...
it would never have happened.
No, it wouldn't have happened. I'm just glad that we've actually done it now while we're still here.
Well, that's...
I'm still able.
Yeah, we're just about able.
Today is a day I never thought would happen. I never, ever thought it would happen. I am so happy.
It's taken me over 20 years to get to this stage, you know. Just the relief to see those two together is fantastic.
It's been amazing. It has been truly amazing. I've loved every minute of it. And I think that we will, again, spend some time together. Fair bit, I hope.
Part of it is closure, I think, knowing that you are part of someone.
Nick Morgan's search for his birth mother had also produced a remarkable result. Family finder Kirsty Gray had discovered he too had a sister.
She said there's a girl called Deborah Marie Lowe, born in Coventry, to Honora Margaret Lowe in 1958. And then she said she was adopted, and therefore I can't find out any more.
Desperate to trace his sister, Nick returned to visit his mum Noreen's widower, who, in the interim, had remembered more details.
he was able to tell me exactly what her surname was, which was now Wright, and approximately where she lived, which was on the outskirts of Coventry. I was absolutely astounded. The fact that there was a person out there, having been an only child for so long, I couldn't believe that there was anyone that actually existed. I was shocked, just shocked to the point of not knowing almost what to do next.
Kirsty, the family finder, was called into action again.
She did the records, went on the computer and said, yeah, I've got the address and I've got a telephone number. Do you want to ring her now? And I went, oh, no, well, that's too fast. That's all too fast. So I said, we need to write. So over the course of that week, we composed a letter which we felt would get her attention, but wouldn't scare her off too much. I didn't want to be rejected again, but I was really, really excited about the thought that I might find somebody.
In Coventry, an unsuspecting Deborah Wright was about to have her world turned upside down.
It was July the 5th, and I emptied the postbox, and there was a letter, and then the first thing that I spotted in bold was my natural mother's name. So I was intrigued by this letter.
Deborah got in touch with Kirsty.
She said, well, actually, I'm not trying to trace relatives of Nora. I'm working for a client who's trying to trace you. And I went, me? And she said, yes, you've got a brother. And I just said, no, I haven't got a brother. I think you've got the wrong person, because I'm an only child.
Deborah was born in 1958 to Nora Lowe, but as an unmarried mother, Nora felt unable to care for her.
She then knew that she couldn't look after me, so she advertised me in a local newspaper, and my adoptive parents answered the advert.
Deborah was fostered by Mr. and Mrs. Priest, who nurtured and cared for her.
When I was 14, I met Dennis. And then when I was 17, we knew that we wanted to get married.
Even at that early age, I think that we knew we were right for each other.
So I wanted my name in church to be said Deborah Priest.
Desperate to use her beloved parents' name on her wedding day, she needed them to legally adopt her. But that involved getting back in touch with her birth mother so that she could sign the papers.
The social worker managed to trace Nora, who was living in Coventry, and Nora said that she would like to meet me. And so the social worker returned to tell me this and asked me if I would like to meet Nora, which I wasn't interested in. One, at the time, I didn't think that I really wanted to meet her, but also I knew what it would do to Mum and Dad if I did go to meet her.
It's just a sign of loyalty, I think, really, for what their parents had certainly done for Deb over their lifetime, and her lifetime, of course.
What Deborah did agree to was swapping photos. It was the first time she'd seen an image of her birth mother.
I do regret that I didn't meet Nora at 17, because with her being 39 when she had me, obviously she was moving on in years, and when I was finally ready to meet her, it was too late.
When she was 39, after the death of her adoptive mother, Deborah decided she wanted to trace Nora, so put an advert in a local paper.
So it turned around, really. I was advertised by Nora in a paper, and then I tried to advertise to get Nora back.
A friend of Deborah's offered help in the search, and it wasn't long before she found a record of Nora, but she had died 5 years previously.
I grieved for Nora the same as I grieved for my adoptive mum. It really, really upset me. I couldn't understand Deborah's feelings because I'd never known her, but it was because I knew then that I had no chance of ever seeing her and asking the questions that I wanted answered. So I was very, very sad. I was told by the social worker that there weren't any other children. Nora had only ever had me at 39. So then, searching for siblings, I thought was impossible, really, that she wouldn't have had any other children.
But that all changed when Deborah was contacted by a family finder called Kirsty Gray.
She said, "You have got a brother," and I was just shell-shocked. I couldn't speak. I was so shocked because it was everything I'd ever wanted, but it was like a dream.
There was a brief silence at the end of the phone, and she then said, "I've always wanted an older brother, but I was told I was an only child."
I just said that I felt that I'd won the lottery.
Nick and Deborah couldn't wait to meet.
it was just texting back and forth all night, and then we arranged to meet the next day.
From having only found out 24 hours earlier that she had a brother, and now 24 hours after that, she was actually going to meet me.
The time had arrived for the siblings to come face to face for the first time.
She walked towards me, I walked towards her, and we hugged. And then we went and sat down for about an hour and a half and did 60 years worth of life.
It was just so easy and natural. We didn't realise the time. It was just so easy. Yeah, we got on so well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, as well as can be.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great meeting.
Since July 2015, the siblings have only met once more. So today, Nick is going back to Coventry to spend the day with his sister and her family. Deborah's children, Daniel and Gemma, have never met their Uncle Nick.
Get a bit nervous.
Nervous. What are you expecting him to be like?
Never ever considered that Mum would ever have any siblings. It just didn't seem like a possibility. I know that Mum's always wanted a big brother, so it's perfect that this has happened. And I just feel that it's so lucky that she'll get to experience what I've always had with Daniel. I think it's like, feels like quite a big moment now. Because it's been a long time coming. It's been like ages since you met, so.
Yeah. We sort of feel like we know him already, but we haven't actually met him yet, have we?
Yeah, I'm really happy that we've got an uncle and a whole of the family. And what's lovely, there's common ground. So we went to the same university. He lived in quite nearby where I lived in Bristol. Really excited to meet Uncle Nick. Yeah, really am. Gonna give him a big hug.
I feel very excited that I'm going to finally meet them, having spoken about them and talked about them for so long. It really finishes off the circle. It's meeting Gemma and Daniel are the final parts of the puzzle. It's been a long time in the making, this visit, trying to get it sorted out, so it'd be really good to finally make that final part so we can be a proper family.
5 months after meeting Deborah for the first time, Nick's arrived at her home to meet the rest of his family.
Hello, it's me.
Long time no see.
Lovely to see you.
Oh. At last, Uncle Nick.
Lovely to meet you. Hello. Oh, yes. Lovely to meet you. How are you doing? Has it been worth waiting for?
Do you think we're right?
I can see it. I can see it. I can definitely see it.
I think it's your mouths as well. They're always open. Yeah.
Do you want a cup of tea then?
Lovely, yeah. Be great, thank you very much.
It was just really, really lovely to see him and meet him. Give him a big hug, both of us.
Yeah, it was just like meeting Mum again. It's really strange.
It's just really nice just to sit around and have a conversation, and I think it didn't feel...
It felt like we'd known him for years.
It didn't feel forced, did it?
No, not at all.
You expect me to be small and petite.
I expected you to be smaller, yeah.
Smaller. I expected you to be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, we got rid of the big sister and big brother and little sister thing, didn't we, quite quickly? Older and straight to older and younger. Yeah.
Older. It's really nice to see the rapport that Uncle Nick and Mum have got. You know, that kind of good banter.
Yeah, you can just tell they're brother and sister, can't you?
Yeah. I think at one point they even started bickering a little bit.
A little bit,
yeah.
And his expressions are a lot like Mum's as well, which obviously...
He's got twinkly eyes and Mum's got twinkly eyes.
Really similar.
Yeah.
Just the way they smile as well.
Our lives have changed for the better.
They have. It's a new family, but we still live our own lives, the lives that we've lived for all the time, but now we've just got an additional bit on the top, isn't it? It's like having the cream.
Yeah, like you say, you're just a little bit of cream.
Yeah.
On the top.
Cream together. Having been an only child for 60 years, and my son David's an only child, and my mate across the road, Andy's an only child, so we're part of the Only Child Club. And I'm not anymore. I'm out.
That's something that we've always known. Like, I can't remember Daniel not being in my life because
Yeah.
there's only 18 months between us, and that kind of sibling bond and love that we have for each other. I just felt like the one thing that when Mum kind of told me about you, I just thought Mum will get to experience that as well, and so will you now. And I just think that's what's lovely. And you've waited 60 years for it, but you know,
Well,
got
your mother's
years
weight
to
is slightly
come.
less.
Yeah.
She's so much
A lot
younger.
less. A lot less. Yeah.
Mum's weight made it nearly 60 years.
It's brought joy to our lives, hasn't it?
Yeah,
because we didn't
extra
know
joy,
about
really.
each other, and then this news that I've got a brother and you've got a sister is obviously going to bring joy, not sadness. Got all these years to look forward to keep having the banter.
Keep having fun
my
together.
jokes. Yeah, and having fun together with
Having
our
fun
families.
together, yeah.
To all the family. It's fantastic, yeah.